Okay, hi guys. I didn't expect this big of an audience, but yeah, let's start. So the thing is that my deck is on 1 hour and I'll need to be super fast to compress it into 30 minutes. I hope we'll have some time for questions and without further ado, let's start. So the name is what blockchain to choose for game development if you want to do it like right now, if you want to make some money on the market. So before we start into details, there's some information about us. So we are the only game on the market that is running on free blockchains at the moment. So we have an exclusive experience that we can share, and basically there is no other developers who can speak about that. So the info is pretty important if you plan to go into this space. We've been several times #1 game on Ethereum and on Tron blockchain. We've received Best Crypto Game at Crypto Games Conference. We're #1 top writer in gaming, and because we're the world's fastest developed blockchain games, we were able to test out different things and see what works and what doesn't. So if we look at blockchains right now, there are two perspectives to look from: technological and business. And because this is a business conference and people here earn money by doing games, then we all understand that business perspective is the most important. Before you jump into developing the game, you need to understand that there are two types of blockchain games around. First ones that use proof of ownership. They use non-fungible tokens to store that ownership. And the other type of games, they just use blockchain to guarantee fairness of play. The first type of games are like collectible, RPG games, strategy games. And the second one is almost every time gambling dApps, casino games, when it is important to know that casino is not screwing you up. So depending on the type of game you want to create, different solutions exist. And among those different solutions, there are different important criteria that you need to take into mind when choosing blockchain. First one is whether some of the game logic can be put into the blockchain itself. It means like whether it has smart contract support or it doesn't. Does it support non-fungible tokens? Can you store something on blockchain as value or you don't? Transaction speed per second. This thing impacts the amount of mechanics you can use, the types of mechanics, because if the blockchain is slow, you can't like do a 3D shooter that, for example, counts every bullet on blockchain. It is just not possible. Community size. Right now in blockchain, well, each blockchain is considered to be an app store, like Apple, like Google having their own stores because they have audiences. And this is why you go to blockchain, to get the reach to this audience. Operational costs. Writing to blockchain is not free. You need to pay for something, and players need to pay something in order to be able to pay. So some are more expensive, some are less expensive. And support from blockchain. Some blockchains just don't care. They create like the ecosystem and you do your own in the sandbox. The others are trying to help you out, bring you some traffic, maybe even funding. And you need to take all these facts into consideration. So there are already more than like 12 different blockchains that support all of these things. At least a majority of them, not all support non-fungible tokens, but you can choose from any of these and try to create a game there. For example, Hyperledger Fabric is an IBM's blockchain. It's a private one. It doesn't have like decentralization, the community support, but it has the support of IBM. So there are plenty options to choose from, but is to be like realistic and to not only create a game on the blockchain, but also gain trust, gain audience, and build a community. There are not so many options to choose from, mainly like 6. And we will talk about Ethereum, EOS, and Tron being the top 3. And these are the blockchains that our game is already on. So before continuing any further, there is one important question, like, okay, but if you're more of a corporate guy and you would like to work with IBM or some big blockchain that is private, is it worth going there? And the answer here is that if you have super big user acquisition team and you can do not only the onboarding of educated players to your game, but onboarding regular users to crypto and then transferring them to your game, then you can do that. But in majority of situation, this is not possible, and I suggest you go with some kind of a public blockchain. So the 3 blockchains that we're going to discuss from the technological perspective are Ethereum, EOS, and Tron. So Ethereum, it is the first blockchain to introduce smart contracts and non-fungible token standards, and it means that basically it's been around for a while, and the competition on this blockchain is the highest because there were more time for developers to develop something. The first hugely popular crypto game, Cuties, was launched on Ethereum, and thus the whole crypto games market was born on Ethereum. Right now, it is the most overcrowded blockchain in terms of both gaming apps and gambling apps. And it is pretty hard to release something new because everything that is like working in terms of mechanics you can put there is probably already on. So it is quite developed in terms of documentation and infrastructure. Smart contracts are written in Solidity. And consensus that is present in this blockchain is pretty old one called proof of work. It means that every transaction is being mined by miners, and you need to offer them some kind of incentive to do that. It's called gas. Gas is a portion of Ether. Ether is Ethereum's currency. So you pay miners something, and they mine your transaction, then it's written to blockchain. The pros. It is the most decentralized of free blockchains, and Ethereum nodes can be set up basically on any normal computers by anyone. It has the most developed infrastructure, a lot of different tools, wallets, and it has SDKs for Unity. So you can try to bring immersive gaming experience to blockchain space, because right now it's dominated by pretty simple web-based games. It has a lot of mobile dApp browsers with good UX and support for web-based crypto games. dApp browsers is basically a small application that serves as a store. It has a wallet built in and a web view that you play the game in. So each time the transaction is triggered, you pay it right away in this application. The importance of mobile dApp browsers is that they have their own audience, and it is very simple in terms of like business to understand where to go first because they have traffic. It is easiest to start with because Ethereum is well documented. It's been around for like 4 years already, and it has thousands of tutorials and working products to examine. Another thing is that there are a lot of developer communities that help you out to solve different problems if you stumble into any. Then another important thing from development perspective is that Ethereum supports events functionality. It means that if you change something in specific tokens, you don't have to scan the whole blockchain. You just can check for specific changes. And because Ethereum itself is pretty slow blockchain, it has a concept of sidechains that solve scalability issues to some degree. Sidechain is a mini blockchain that runs along the main blockchain, and it writes to the main blockchain at some periodical moments. So it doesn't support the connection all the time, but let's say like once per 2 hours and so on. And this allows you to put all the mechanics on sidechain and to write super important data to the main network when it is needed. The cons. It is super slow. It's only 15 transactions per second. So you can't store a lot of things there. You need to be selective on what you want to store on blockchain and what you want to store like on server. The network is frequently becoming overloaded, and it means that you need to pay more for miners to operate your transactions. So when this happens, it is becoming more expensive both for you and players to play on Ethereum. Sidechains, they improve scalability but decrease decentralization, and the most important feature is that smart contracts cannot be redeployed. If you screw up something, made a mistake, it'll be there forever. So you need to create some kind of a modular smart contract system that allows you to rewrite the config values of previous smart contracts when you upload a new one. So top games right now have like around 30 smart contracts to support some simple logic. And the Pioneer CryptoKitties have only like 1-2 smart contracts, and they didn't update the game for a year because they didn't think about it in advance. Another problem is that it has 16 local variables in a function. It's very restrictive. It has very poor capabilities when working with strings. For example, if you want to concatenate 3 separate strings and join it into a single one, you will have to do some voodoo magic for that to work out. There is no random number generator like at all. You need to emulate it differently, and if you do it in a proper way, the Ethereum becomes even slower for you. No fractional numbers, only whole ones, and arbitrary code execution has its like serious restrictions. The Solidity is very structured. Business problems in terms of technological issues is that size of one block is 8 million gas. For example, in our game, in order to produce one asset, we need 300K of gas. So we can pack only 20 free assets in one block. And one block takes around 15 seconds to be mined. And then in order it to be baked irreversibly into blockchain, you need to wait at least 8 to 12 blocks for transaction to be confirmed. So that's on paper 3 minutes. In reality, it's 5 minutes. And if you take into account that block is being combined not only from your transactions, then it takes even more. And this brings very serious issues when you want to mass produce something. Say you have like a contract with a phone maker that wants your assets to be on the phone. So you need to put it into plan, like take 2 weeks for transfer of the assets from your smart contracts to his wallets. This is a pain in the ass. So let's speak about EOS. EOS introduced smart contracts that allow to use both fungible and non-fungible token standards inside a single contract. It is semi-decentralized. There is no like hundreds of nodes, only block producers. And block producers are mainly like enterprise level machines that are operated by companies. So EOS is the second most populated blockchain right now. It is quite developed in terms of documentation, and smart contracts are can be written on 4 languages. It's C++, Rust, Python, and Solidity. But if you want to take full advantage of EOS, you need to use C++. The consensus is delegated proof of stake, and in order to use blockchain, you don't pay the transaction fee as you do as an Ethereum, but you rent RAM, CPU, or network resources by staking your coins, EOS. So you rent it, and until your rental amount is okay, you're allowed to use the network. If the overload of the network increases, then you need to pay more to be able to use the network. So pros, block producers are very fast enterprise-level machines, and this brings like a lot better transaction speed. Ethereum, EOS is the fastest of the free blockchains. It has almost 4K TPS, so it can allow to support very complex mechanics that operate on blockchain itself. Virtual machine of EOS is dozens of times faster than one of Ethereum and of Tron. And there is a choice in terms of programmers and smart contracts programming, because like there are more Python and C++ developers around than there are Solidity at the moment, and they are not as expensive. Infrastructure is very developed, and if you have C++ developers, then it's definitely a way to go. Important technical stuff is that C++ support libraries, virtual methods, templates, operator overloading, and so on. And Solidity won't have these features for years to come. So this is more robust, more solid programming language if to compare to Solidity. It compiles into native code with optimizations. For example, number 1, the digit is stored in 1 byte, not in 32 bytes, as it is in Ethereum and in Tron, because Ethereum and Tron operates in matrices, and EOS is like less polluted in this term. It is more optimized. The most important thing that it is possible to redeploy smart contracts and update the game like a regular one. So if you screw up something, you can just roll out an update and it will be gone. This is cool, but some people don't like it because they think that it is not in the spirit of decentralization. Better to blockchain ecology, because you pay the price for staking resources for the things that are operated on the blockchain. It is not economically advantageous to have a lot of trash. You need to pay for the things you just use and don't pay for the ones you don't use. So basically, it is more ecological than Ethereum. So the cons. Less trust in the long run, because the decentralization is split among 21 block producers. In EOS, you cannot store random data, only tables. Even if you store like number 1, it'll be a table where number 1 is stored. There is no event functionality, so you need to scan the blockchain each time fully to see what's changed, or you need to emulate this in functionality on your server. The user onboarding process is abysmal on EOS. It takes from an hour and a half to become an EOS user if you know how to use crypto and you have some kind of crypto. And if you're completely new, it may take up to a week. So let's go to Tron. Tron is the youngest and most ambitious of free blockchains that support dApps. It uses smart contracts that are compatible with Ethereum's ones, because it uses same compiler and virtual machine. And it allows for both fungible and no fungible token standard. It is semi-decentralized. It has 27 super representatives, similar as in block producers in EOS, and they participate in consensus. It is very underdeveloped in terms of documentation and infrastructure, and smart contracts are written on Solidity, same as in Ethereum. Consensus is delegated proof of stake, same as in EOS, and this combination brings a very interesting thing. It has two models of paying for blockchain use. You can either stake resources like in EOS, or if the network load becomes very, very big and your staked amount is not enough, then your TRX will be just taken out from your account. So this is very important because if you operate the game, you need your smart contracts to work like relentlessly all the time. And in EOS, they may stop if you don't have enough power. Here, they will just try to eat out the money you have. This is good. So the pros. Apart from the one that I've just told you about, Tron is pretty fast. It supports 748 TPS, and because it's compatible with Ethereum, you can easily launch games on two blockchains. You can pivot your development. If you're doing a game for Ethereum, you can pivot to Tron right now. It won't cost you a lot. The communities of developers are very helpful despite very bad documentation. They can help you out, and they are eager to do that. And it supports events functionality, same as Ethereum. The cons. It's very unpolished. The main problem is that documentation right now sometimes contradicts with how things really work. So you can spend 2-3 days just figuring out what's wrong with that. And the situation might occur where nobody is able to help you. Testnet is frequently experiencing downtimes. When we released the games, we had an issues like testnet was down for 6 hours in a row, several days in a row. So we decided to test on mainnet and paid money for it. Infrastructure is undeveloped right now, but it's being developed very fast. And smart contracts cannot be redeployed, same as in Ethereum. So let's look at it from business perspective. Market is still not overcrowded, but it is growing extremely fast. At the moment, there are more than 620 plus games released. By games, I'm not talking about casino games, just games. And more than 580 gambling dApps released. So, and these data are not like super actual, they're a month old, so right now it's even more. And another important thing that during 2018, there were like so many shitty games released on the blockchain that dApp trackers like DappRadar and State of the Dapps in October decided to clean them up. It was more than 3,000 games released already in the end of October. Right now, this data is the ones that operate, compiles from the games that operate and up and running. So as you see, it is growing very fast. And if we speak about the revenues, about the turnover, then turnover is big, especially in gambling dApps. So it's a weekly turnover, and you cannot average, extrapolate this within a month because the market is very volatile, and the averages, they don't show how the things works. So the thing is that games in January for 1 week can turn around $600 per week, and gambling dApps do that like in millions. 410 millions per week. Those are big amounts of money, especially if you consider like what's happening in the super overcrowded native mobile applications, when it is totally understandable what you need to do, but there are so many good players that have very big marketing budgets that sometimes it's just not worth it. Things here is that when you're doing a gambling dApp, you receive a fraction, like 0.5% of a transaction. You don't receive like 100%. And if you're doing regular games, like in our games, for example, our profit to revenue ratio is around 44%. And we have a lot of different business models. So if you know how to create games, I suggest you go with games. If you want to do like quick bucks and you want to be able to earn it in 2 months, I suggest you watch for the new blockchain to introduce smart contracts and NFTs and release gambling dApp like to be there one of the first. Top 3 games usually receive a lot of money. So let's talk about pros and cons of these blockchains from business perspective. Like Ethereum, because it is very developed, it has a lot of established players that can help you with visibility, publicity, can provide you technical and marketing advice, can even provide you some funding. Sidechains, for example, like Engine and Loom, can leverage your game visibility easily if you do a game specifically for them. There are many mobile wallets with high-quality traffic, like Trust Wallet, Coinbase, Engine, and so on. And it is pretty easy in terms of planning to plan your game. What you do, you release the game, you address those people, you try to make partnership with them, and then bring you traffic. The user acquisition process is the easiest here because the existing user base is pretty big on Ethereum. So in January, the total monthly active users that play blockchain games was not very big. It was around 28,000 users, but you need to take into account that all of these users are paid users, and the whales that play crypto games, they pay like in thousands of dollars per single transaction. For example, one of the most expensive assets we've sold on Tron was more than $9,000 in worth. It was bought after 2 hours after it was released. So the scalability of profit here, if you do it correctly, is very big. And the majority of audience is still on Ethereum. Then it has established trading platforms like OpenSea and Actionity. If you have a small team, you can outsource the market to these platforms. So you can just do the game mechanic on your game, and if they want to trade, you send them there. And right now there are fewer active pyramid and scammy games on the market because it was like an illness. It is present in Tron and EOS right now, but Ethereum, being the first blockchain to introduce this stuff, has been there like in June, in May of the last year. Cons, very serious competitions, a lot of established players, and because it's overcrowded, audience is more picky. They've tried out different games, so you can't release a shitty copy of some other game and earn money. You need to do something more here. But 15 transactions per second is very restrictive, and you cannot do a lot of cool game mechanics that you see in native mobile games here. Or you need to do a hybrid game when a lot of stuff is being calculated on server, and only the most important thing that is connected with the assets that player can trade is being done on blockchain. So EOS. Block producers are like small governments on EOS. They nurture their own communities, and they are incentivized to help your game because the audience that play the game may be able to vote for them. So the whole system is that there are hundreds of block producers, but only top 21 gets a chance of participating in consensus. Consensus is when people decide whether this should be on blockchain or not, whether we roll it back or it stays. So plus they receive additional money from the EOS itself. And that's why they would be eager to help you if you promise them that your audience will vote for them. There are many mobile wallets. Majority of them belong to block producers like Meet1, and the whole thing about the community is completely different in EOS because of this fractured structure. So you need to work with separate communities directly, not on a global scale. So if you release something, you want to speak with that block producer community, with that block producer community. You just don't reach out to everyone. And this is a property of EOS right now. You can't do it otherwise. The transaction speed allows for complex, unique gaming experiences like massive multiplayer online games and so on. So also there is this thing that there are actually two gaming markets in blockchain. First one is decentralized applications like CryptoCuties, like blockchain Cuties, and the other one is not being born yet, but there are companies that are doing games for that market right now. It's pure blockchain games. For example, take Fortnite, but pay for everything being stored on EOS somewhere like where people don't know about it, and at the time when somebody wants to sell something, you can offer them an ability to withdraw the asset, pay something to you, and then it totally belongs to them, and then they can do whatever they want to. So this is a market that for example, Mythical Games, it consists from Niantic, Blizzard, Activision, ex-employees. They are addressing that market right now, and they plan to release the game probably next year. Cons, hardest onboarding experience ever, as I told you. I don't have time to basically tell you how it works, but it took hour and a half for me to create an EOS account and put money there. And I was super motivated because I'm into this space. So you can't bring like people from the street to EOS blockchain because it's expensive. It costs $5. Usually people charge $7, and it has a lot of applications. Tron provides coverage for quality dApps, does weekly reports. Tron CEO participates in this type of things. For example, he retweeted a lot of our tweets and he helped us to gain traction. It aggressively develops its dApp ecosystem, and basically it helps with funding. If you have a good game, like but not very expensive, you can attract some kind of funding for burn rate, and the business models are flexible. They can either do revenue share or they can do a loan and so on. It's a new market right now. The competition is smaller, and they have similar thing as EOS does with super representatives. It's not there yet, but there will be these super big communities that are eager to help you. Because it uses the same virtual machine as Ethereum, it has a potential to conquer a substantial portion of Ethereum's games market like within months. It grows very fast. And about the cons, I've already told them. It's hard to work right now purely from technical perspective because a lot of things don't work differently than advertised. There are a lot of issues and the infrastructure isn't there yet. But if we're thinking right now about the business opportunity that is on the market for which blockchain to go, then I suggest you go with Tron because it has the best growth potential. And if you want to earn money like within 3 or 4 months, it's the only option right now, the cheapest option. But if you have like external funding and you want to do like some crazy experiences that nobody done before, you can go with EOS because it is more robust and better suited for long-term heavy development of some complex products. So thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, please ask them.
Thank you very much, Vladimir.